Alrighty, everyone, welcome to a special production here at Celtics Talk Weekly. I'm going to be hosting today. This is David hosting. I'm one of the writers here at Celtics Talk Weekly. I also run the Twitter or X account, whatever you want to call it. We are joined today with my co-hosts, Nick Franco and Seamus Zarlingo, and we have a very special guest here from the USA Today's Celtics Wire and host of the Celtics Lab podcast, Cam Tabatabaie. Is that correct?
Yeah, you must have done your homework. You nailed it. Nice job.
We do here.
I did watch some film on that. So yeah, welcome to the show here. We're happy to have you. Thanks for having some time to thanks for taking some time to talk Celtics with us. And yeah, how are things going for you today?
They're good. I'm not going to be in-house tomorrow for the Trailblazers game, and I'm kind of regretting that. I was thinking about this afternoon. The Trailblazers look pretty dope, but I prioritized the Sixers and the Lakers this week. So I'm good, but I'm, I guess, feeling regretful in this moment.
So you can see Quentin Grimes with the Sixers. I mean, the Sixers are the new kids on the block now. No Joel Embiid, Paul George, who knows what he's going to do. The Sixers, they actually look interesting without him. So, but those are two matchups. I mean, it's the classics. So you think about NBA history: Sixers, Lakers, Celtics. So it's like Trailblazers. They're interesting. Robert Williams returned, but you got to go with the classics. Sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah. So my first question was going to be: you were at All-Star Weekend. I know we talked. You spent a little bit of time down there in San Francisco, also after the All-Star break. What did you think of this All-Star Weekend? And if there's anything that you can think of to fix this All-Star Weekend, what would you do to fix it?
I'll go in reverse. I thought they got pretty damn close. I thought the tournament was the right formula. The younger stars versus international guys, they played their asses off, and then the OGs, they almost lost to the rising stars. I thought the tournament had real sizzle. The problem was the television broadcast. I don't know if TNT was giving a middle finger to the league or they didn't read the room or whatnot, but it just turned what ended up being competitive basketball, which you only see at All-Star Weekend, into junk. I didn't actually watch much of the game in my seat. I was just kind of like walking around. I really like the back halls of the All-Star game. There's just like so much to do and so many people to see, and it's kind of chaos. So I didn't really have a sense of how bad it was until I talked to other people who were just sitting and watching. But I guess one anecdote I've shared was I was down on the court for a little bit when they were doing some TNT crap. And at one point, Giannis literally took time to check his son's diaper, which, like, we're all supportive of dads who take, hands-on role, but there shouldn't be enough time in a basketball game for a dad to check his son's diaper, I don't think. So I thought the fix is right there. I hope whoever has it, NBC, I think, has it next year, they stick with a formula like that and they don't get so self-indulgent, because I think that was the biggest concern probably. And then I don't know. I don't really like San Francisco. There's too many robots walking around everywhere. It kind of creeps me out. When I went last year, or 2 years ago rather, to Indianapolis, they handed you a hand-knit hat that I guess some volunteer grandmas had made everyone who was coming to All-Star, like a little beanie. And it felt like Indianapolis was really thankful to have the All-Star game. San Francisco felt like it didn't care, and then really and truly there were many different robots walking around in the stadium, and that creeped me out. So I don't know. It's a good time. I'm really thankful to be in a position to go to NBA All-Star games. I don't want to pretend like it's not very fascinating and interesting, but I don't really like San Francisco is really my answer.
How many All-Star weekends have you been a part of or been able to go to?
Just the two here. I went Indianapolis, figured I should go to one, and it's closer, it's more affordable. My twin sister lives in San Francisco, so I couldn't really turn that one down. And I love LA. I know that's not like a popular opinion on a Celtics podcast, but I love Los Angeles, so I might go next year. But you don't really get access unless you really work the phones and you know what you're doing. Everyone gets the same quotes. You don't really get that much out of it. So I think it's a fun spectacle. It's nice to see, national reporters I don't always get to see and whatnot. But in terms of like a valuable work trip, it's really what you make of it. So We'll see. I like LA quite a bit. Where's the one after that? Did they decide Phoenix? Does that sound right to you guys?
I'm not really sure on that one. NBA All Star Week. All I know is it could have been in Boston these last couple of years and didn't quite get the bid.
I don't
But in
know.
terms of,
The stadium might not be big enough. There's so much going on at All Star at all given times that I literally don't know if TD Garden is a big enough building.
I was thinking of like the outside area too. Like you think about TD Gardens, the outside area versus say Chase Center. I don't know if you were outside of the Chase Center, but it seemed like they had that really big area where
Yeah.
they had the TNT set, and that's what all these other arenas have the luxury of. They have these massive parking lots and these massive
Hmm.
areas as you walk into the arena, and then you walk into TD Garden, it's literally like these two escalators just sitting. It's just sitting there, and it's like, how are you going to pack everybody into that little sardine can right there. Obviously, it's been renovated in the past decade, but from even the size and the space you have in downtown Boston there with the Celtics and TD Garden, I mean, there's really not much space to work with for All Star Weekend in Boston. I think you'd be right on that one.
Yeah, a hometown one would be fun. It's like when the playoffs roll around, it's nice to be on home turf, but I don't like logistically know how it would be possible. It's above my pay grade. I guess it's not my problem, but I don't really know. Sorry, I got a cat that's wants to be involved in the show. So yeah, that'd be my take on All Star.
We
It's a
have
pretty
plenty of
normal thing on this
cats
program, by
from
the
the
way.
show.
Cats make appearances all the time. They're either
Great.
meowing in the background, they're coming up on camera, and Franco, don't get out that cat mask. I'm telling
Hmm.
you right now,
No,
the cat
we
mask.
don't need to tell the good about that.
Don't get it out. Don't get it out. But
And I
anyway,
was able to confirm that next year is LA and then 2027 is Phoenix for the All-Star game. So we were correct with that. There's been a lot of talk just continuing on a little bit with All-Star weekend of, we get these reports that the NBA is starting to draft up proposals for a potential one-on-one tournament next All-Star weekend. There's clips on social media of Durant saying he'd be a part of it. Anthony Edwards also saying he'd be a part of it. What are your thoughts on a potential one-on-one tournament becoming a part of All-Star Weekend moving forward? You think that this will help the weekend? Are you indifferent to it?
I'm probably indifferent to it. I think the only All Star game that matters is baseball, and I think it's because the pitchers want to beat the batters. So a one-on-one tournament, fundamentally, you can't get punked on defense because you're the only guy playing defense. So that's nice. My bigger concern is that I don't think it matters. Like I've said this before, like if you follow Jason's weekend, Jason Tatum, he arrives in San Francisco Saturday morning. He immediately has to go to Oakland to go to practice. That's an hour in the car. He does all the media practice, and there's like a lot of waiting around and photos, and it's a lot of work. He has to get into a car and go to this Jordan event. That was cool. I actually was there with him, and it was a cool event. But that's a lot of time. Then he's got to go back to San Francisco, another hour in the car. I actually, I ended up taking a boat across the bay with Jared Weiss because it was so hard to get around town. And then you got to do the All Star game. Then Sunday you wake up, and by the time they actually get to the game, these guys they all have to do their corporate sponsorships. It's just a big convention. I mean, it's just a big commercial. So yeah, putting a tournament 2-on-2, 1-on-1 might, guys' pride might really come out and they might try, but fundamentally, I don't know if the league cares because it's really about selling Starry and 2K and stuff more than it is about a competitive exhibition game. So, oh damn it, my cat bit me because I wasn't paying attention to him. I don't know. Once LeBron retires and whoever the new face of the league is going to be, maybe they'll care. LeBron patently does not give a shit about the NBA. I mean, the All Star game. So it might be that culturally it will just change in a few years, anyways.
yeah,
I'm
that's what
gonna,
it's ultimately about, though. Is I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of it being really, it's a pageantry event. It's really a pageantry event for all the superstars who go there and have their little moment, whether it's being introduced or you talked about going to the Jordan event with Jason Tatum. That's a whole different side to All Star Weekend that people don't even consider. Is all the little events outside of what the NBA is actually hosting. And ultimately, the All Star game, it's really just this microcosm of really the entire weekend in itself with all these players, whatever they're doing throughout their days, whether Saturday or Sunday or even Friday on some occasions. But the league just wants to they want to change something that really can't be changed, right? The competitiveness of the All-Star game has really never been there. I mean, really in the past, you think about maybe 70s, 80s, early 90s, early 2000s, you could see some competitiveness within the All-Star games, but that came from internally from the players. It came from guys like Kobe Bryant. It came from guys like Michael Jordan. It came from guys like LeBron James for our generation. And ultimately, you're only going to have that if you have the internal motivation from players to actually go out there and play. Otherwise, it's going to be like it is most years. It's going to be a lot of running and gunning up and down the floor, shooting threes from midcourt, throwing up lobs to the big guys. That's what it's really about. And the competitiveness, to me, it doesn't go in line with the NBA wants to fix their ratings, but competitiveness in the All-Star game, the All-Star game ratings, that's not going to determine the All-Star game ratings. What's going to determine the All-Star game ratings is what are the storylines during the regular season? Who are the headliners throughout the regular season? Who are your superstars? Who are your rivalries? Are they playing each other in the All-Star game? Are they on the same team in the All-Star game? Right now, the NBA, they can be at a little bit of a void with some of these things, and that's going to inevitably affect their All-Star ratings too. If your NBA regular season ratings aren't up, the All-Star ratings aren't going to be good either. Yet the fix is, to the NBA's eyes, oh, we need more competition at All-Star break. I don't feel like we need more competition. I feel like we just need more storylines throughout the regular season that people can follow into All-Star break and really enjoy it from that standpoint, because the competitiveness has never quite been there for All-Star week, and it really is more of a pageantry event. But anyway, David and Franco, you guys can piggyback off that if you guys want.
Yeah, I think it's kind of might as well have been the Oscars last night, the NBA All-Star weekend. And coming back from the All-Star weekend, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both played a part in that, playing for the OG team, which ended up walking away from that. How do you feel the team has been able to come back after ripping off a 3-game win stretch after getting that momentum before the All-Star break, winning 3 games in a row and then losing 2 and then bouncing back with a win against the Denver Nuggets a few nights ago?
I mean, I think the rest really matters. Like these guys they won't say it, but they're tired, they're banged up, they're not 100%. So even Jason and Jalen, even though they got limited vacation time, I think that was valuable. I think also the stretch, but December and January looked ugly. My read on that is, they lost a few games, and then when it was a little harder than they were expecting, just flipped the switch. They panicked. And then they ran into a really tough schedule. I mean, they had 2 like whopper West Coast trips that they still went 3-1 on each one of them, I think. So it probably is water finding its level that they're back to winning 5 out of every 7 games. And they still have the same habits. They fall asleep at the wheel. They don't hit their threes, or they get baited into taking too many twos, and suddenly, a team like Cleveland is able to come back. So I don't think the Celtics are giving us usable data. Like, if Joe Mazzulla is going to have Sam Hauser guard Darius Garland for an entire game, I can't take that seriously. Like, that's not what's going to happen in the playoffs. So using that to future cast feels ridiculous. The only thing that matters is if they're healthy. On the margins, you maybe want to see if Jordan Walsh looks ready to play 8 minutes a night in the playoffs. You want to make sure that Jason, his new shot isn't taking a step back for his old shot. Jalen keeps having different little things in the injury report. You want to see what's up with that, but I don't know. I think it's exciting that we're getting closer to the spring, but I don't think the Celtics are tipping their hand. I still don't know that any stretch of the regular season is going to be usable data for us to see what's going on in the future.
Right, and with that loss against the Cleveland Cavaliers a few nights back, do you see that being kind of the dead shot on the Celtics contending for that number 1 seed? And what do you believe the path will be for the Celtics going forward for the rest of the season? Will we see a lot more rest management for these star players? Obviously, Drew and Kristaps battling injuries as of recently, returning back to practice today. But do you see them playing a little bit more conservative with those players and really resting them up before the playoffs begin?
Well, so to your point again, I don't think if they were trying to chase the 1 seed, I don't I think they would have approached that Cleveland game different. They did a lot of experimenting. I mean, we got Drew Peterson minutes in the first quarter. So whether or not the Celtics think they can catch the 1 seed, I don't think that was their best attempt. And it's fine if they're in the 2 seed. A game 7 in Cleveland could be a problem, but I don't think that they're that worried about it. I certainly would like to think they're going to rest down the stretch. I mean, they've got this Lakers game and this Thunder game coming up, and then the schedule is pretty hot garbage. I think other than the Knicks and the Grizzlies, there's nothing really of consequence on the schedule, which of course means they're going to lose a bunch of frustrating games that ultimately don't matter. So I hope that they rest. I certainly hope that Jalen rests. Jason is such a rhythm player that I don't know if he doesn't want to rest, fine. He's like an Iron Man. So I suspect that they will rest. The Drew thing is interesting. I hope he takes time off. If an injured pinky is reason for him to get another 2-week vacation, great. He could probably play through it. If it was the playoffs, he'd play through it, but he doesn't need to. So I don't think they're worried about losing the rhythm because, again, they keep playing all season long. The lineups have been different and wacky, much more so than last season. So I think that either they really want to experiment or they just don't want to, again, show their cards, would be the analogy that I use. And I think Joe would probably suggest it's the former as much as the latter. He's still tinkering and experimenting, but I don't know. I don't want to say like don't watch basketball for the month of March or April, but I would not over-index what you see from the Celtics for the next 6 weeks.
Now, would you say that actually plays into the Celtics' hands that they're potentially experimenting and not throwing out lineups out there, not tipping their cards, or does that actually maybe concern you a little bit from a rhythmic standpoint going into the playoffs, or do you think that's just normal?
I don't know about normal. I mean, it's tough when you have they have like the 3rd oldest team in the league or something like that, and they've had some pretty kooky injuries. Like Derek was hurt for a little bit. Kristaps is coming back, and he's got this illness. So a little bit of it is necessity, but I think also it's Joe Mazzulla does indeed want to see what he has up and down the board. And then I also think, I mean, they played Milwaukee 3 or 4 times, whatever it was. Milwaukee has a bunch of tape of Drew Peterson and Sam Hauser going up against Giannis. Like, great, that's not usable for them. So I don't think that. I think Joe is probably one of the most insanely prepared people in the NBA, and I don't think he wants his opponents to have that opportunity. So there's a lot of gamesmanship, I suspect, even though they do intend to win every night. I mean, that Cleveland game, I mean, the Celtics just laid an egg in the 4th quarter. Say what you want about strategery. If they got more than whatever it was, 6 bench points, it probably doesn't play out that way. And if they get a few stops in a row, as much as maybe the Celtics laid down there, Mitchell just hit some crazy shots, and
Right.
that happens.
Particularly against the Celtics, it feels like, from Donovan Mitchell. One of the leading scorers against the Celtics in history, actually. Crazy enough to say about him.
Do you think we're being too hard on the Celtics team this year because last year was just so historically amazing? Because we're still sitting here 43-18 on March 4th. I mean, yeah, we already have 18 losses. That's what we had all of last regular season. But do you think expectations are unfairly heightened for this team, or do you think it's acceptable given that this is a title defending team where we brought back pretty much every single player from the team the year before?
I think the Celtics would tell you bring on the expectation. I mean, Joe said as much preseason. The Celtic City documentary is definitely making the case that, hey, that's what comes with wearing the jersey. I think just like everything in American public life is no fun anymore. I think everyone is like debate me bro culture has ruined a lot of things, and everyone is trying to get their opinion off online. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. It's not fun when you spent money to be entertained and your team loses. So insofar as it's really never been more expensive to go to a game and they might blow a lead, and that's frustrating. I do think that the days in between games, we got to calm down a little bit. So if you paid good money to watch this, or to, you're paying out the ass to pay for your cable package to watch this, I think you deserve to be upset when it looks like they didn't give their best effort, or when they laid an egg in the 4th quarter. you're the paying customer. It's an entertainment product. But I also think that it's just like a game and it's fun and it's look, whatever's happening in Dallas, Celtics fans got to keep it real. Like we're in such a privileged position to watch this team here in Boston, whether you're in New England or not. The way that this thing is run, the way that they put forth their best effort, the way that they show up, man, that is just like not a given in the NBA. There are 10 teams in the NBA who just like are not designed to win basketball games, but like from the very top up, and certainly could go south real quick. So I don't know. It's my job to like overanalyze the team, and I'm finding it a little boring here in March. So I think everyone could take a beat and just take a breath, and it's fun. But certainly, if you spent good money to watch a team, you want them to win. I mean, I'll tell you, I get really pissed when they lose. I root for the team because I'm from Boston, but I don't really care if they win or lose. But when they lose, they take twice as long to do media. I mean, they throw little hissy fits when they lose. So personally, they're just easier to deal with when they win. But in the aggregate, they're clearly going to go to the conference finals, if not the finals, if not win the whole thing. So let's all calm down.
That saying right there, winning cures all. I mean, that's really what it is. But ultimately, you mentioned the ticket prices. They've gone up at the TD Garden. They've gone up across the NBA, but particularly with the Boston Celtics. Do you actually see that as a factor that may be hampering the team this season? Just the fact of the crowd maybe not filled with the diehards as much as it used to be in the crowd. We talk about, our guy Franco next to me here. It's like, oh, he's kind of priced out of games now as a fan. And Franco, if you don't know Franco, he's just an animal when he goes to games. But nowadays, when you sit courtside or anybody else in there, they're paying hundreds of dollars. There may be more civilized people in a sense. Do you see that kind of playing as a factor within the crowd's noise or the crowd's energy within games? You think there's less of a ruckus crowd there nowadays than there used to be?
Yeah, I'm mused about that. I mean, it's certainly the case that like a different demographic of fan pays for the primo seats and then gets up in a different way. I think also just like all of American public life is like on lo-fi. I don't think it's just like a Celtics thing. Like if you go to a baseball game, go to the movies, go to whatever, people just like tame in a weird way. Some of the reporters and we were talking on Sunday that Sunday games generally have good juice because families go. So like you hear a lot of cheering and jeering during the game because a player shoots and kids go woo, but then like the extended timeouts, they don't have the energy to like keep up the pep. So you can kind of get a sense in the building. I was talking to Dana Barros actually about that in January, and he was like, "Oh my God, absolutely! You feel the pulse in the building. Like you immediately get a sense of, what's the tenor of the crowd." So, yeah, the socioeconomic bend is really fascinating. Certainly, the way that people going back to All-Star, the way that people talked about Oracle, the stadium that was in Oakland, like it was magical. And the way that no one likes Chase Center, which is now in San Francisco, was really night and day. People would offer that opinion without you even asking. So I don't know. I've been going to Celtics games my whole life. It's still the best place to play in basketball, other than maybe Madison Square Garden. But Madison Square Garden, they're usually not playing in May and June. So there's that.
Ooh. I was like, don't give them too much praise. Like
balls in your court, New York. It's not. So yeah, I suspect that like in the aggregate, sports fans across America, maybe across the world, are more muted because our brains are turning to mush, but also because they're getting priced out. But still, TD Garden's the best place to play and watch a basketball game.
And we've seen the Celtics. They were so good at defending the home court last year, and it's kind of switched around this season, seeing the team looking a lot more prepared on away trips, being ready to rock and roll. What do you think is one of the causes for the Celtics dismays and losses at home during this season? Is it a sense of comfortability, or is it a lack of focus, or anything of the above, like we were talking about with the fans?
It's probably like a yes and answer. I think opponents get up to play in Boston. There's a lot of national TV games. You're where the national champs play. You want to give them your best, and guys are clearly experiencing that. I mean, going up against the Lakers, the Knicks, the Celtics always matters. Going up against the defending champs always matters. Going up against them, the defending champs in a marquee market at home always matters. And then, it's certainly possible that the guys are a little more distracted, a little too comfortable playing at home. The road record is extraordinary. I think it's just, it reminds you that when this team wants to take care of business, there's like really nothing that can stand in their way. I wonder if there's like maybe the home games, there's that many more times they've been missing top guys, and that's making the data a little muddy. They've never really given a satisfactory answer when asked about that. Not that they don't usually give satisfactory answers at the podium anyways, but I'd be curious. I think so. It's probably death by not 1,000 paper cups, but a couple of key ones. And I think the opponent wanting to show out matters as much or more than anything else.
Yeah,
And sorry, you go, Franco.
No, you go, David.
What do you want to see from the team in these last 21 games? So again, we're at 43-18. We're firmly in the second seed. I mean, there's a chance we could slip to 3. I think the New York's now like 3.5, 4 games behind us. But what is it that you want to see from this team as we head into April and some more playoff basketball in Boston?
I want them to obliterate the Los Angeles Lakers. They got embarrassed last time they played the Lakers. And I asked LeBron about this at All-Star, and he gave such a disappointing answer. I asked him what his take on the Celtics-Lakers rivalry was, and he started talking about like Michigan and Ohio State. He gave some heady answer about sports rivalries. And look, going back to like, does the regular season matter? That's one way you make it matter, is that the historic rivalries have extra juice. And maybe LeBron just didn't want to flatter that question, but it seems like he hates the Celtics. I mean, he always plays well against the Celtics, and I don't think the Celtics hate the Lakers. I bet Joe Mazzulla does, but that game should matter. I really hope Saturday is just like an absolute classic of a game. Long term, I just hope guys get healthy. It'd be super fun if Peyton Pritchard wins 6th Man of the Year. Doesn't really matter. If anything, if he loses, he'll go into the playoffs with a chip on his shoulder. That might be good for the team. Certainly don't want any of the top guys to get hurt. So, yeah, it's that fine line between staying fresh, staying healthy, but then also having momentum, having rhythm. They're going to go up against a Hawks team or a Magic team or some scrappy team in the first round anyways that's going to try to give them everything they've got. So they'll have a chance to kind of build that rhythm anyways, but I don't know. The Lakers game, the Thunder's game, the getting revenge against Memphis when they go down to Memphis, it doesn't matter, but you hope you get a good basketball game out of it.
Basically, the name of the game is maintaining the 2 seed. That's what it is. Maintaining the 2 seed and staying healthy. Those are the 2 main things. Really, go to the next 21 games, because anything else, it's like, 1 seed out of the question, 3 seed, don't exactly want to drop all the way down to 3, but you want to maintain that 2 seed, want to stay healthy, and the rhythm too, going into the playoffs. You want to be playing a little well, a little better than maybe your best going into the playoffs. But I suspect too, you mentioned rest, Celtics might have a lot of rest down the stretch of the season, particularly the last 2 weeks of the season, maybe last week of the season, from the standpoint of that 2 seed. We've been sitting in that 2 seed, that 2 slot for most of the season. We have 2 months left and there's 20 games left. I don't see too much changing in that regard. And maybe the last 2 weeks, last week of the season, the Celtics, they're probably just going to be resting players. But up until that point, it's definitely about maintaining the 2 seed. But sorry, David, I cut you off, so you can go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to bring up that point with the Celtics-Lakers rivalry. Like, even regardless the last couple seasons where each team has been in the standings, like I can recall plenty of memorable games. Obviously, we played them last season on Christmas. That was a fun game. I think Porzingis, Tatum, and Brown each had at least 20 points in that one. There's the game 2 years ago where LeBron got fouled at the buzzer and that went into overtime, and he threw that huge hissy fit at half court. Patrick Beverley was showing the camera to the now retired referee. What was Mark Davis, I think his name was, or something like that. But
that is a ref. I don't remember which ref it was. Good, good poll from you.
Right. And I mean, even last year was so incredible, and it's so hard to pinpoint frustration points from an 80 and 21 team. But I would argue the most frustrating home loss, as we get an appearance from the cat there.
Yeah, this is Omar.
Welcome, Omar, to the show. We got to get all of our we're gonna have at the end of the year a cat montage, like all the moments cats made appearances on the program.
Come on, Omar, get the montage. My other cat Bubbles is over there, but he's sitting on the radiator. He's way too comfortable.
Can't pry him away from that. Afternoon nap time. That's what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, no, I agree that the games have been tremendous. As they should be. I mean, the Lakers are good. I don't know if they're great, but they're good. The Celtics are great. And there should be sizzle that if you're going to pay for our previous conversation, you're going to pay top dollar. I mean, the tickets for this game on Saturday are ridiculous. The reason I think is it's probably LeBron's second time playing in Boston in his career. So if you want to see LeBron James in person, this is it. But yeah, for how much the fans are paying, they better put on a show.
Yeah, there's a ticket on Game Time for the game I saw that is $40,000 for Saturday's game.
What? What do you get to play?
Right, and it's not even courtside. It's like 3 rows from the court, but it's $40,300. I saw it on X earlier.
What's the SeatGeek promo code you guys have going on?
Yep, sure Celtics Weekly. You'll get your $20 off, but that'll be $20 off that $40,000 ticket.
I was gonna say Game Time. Hit us up for a sponsorship. We know you have the money. I mean, $40,000 tickets. Like, come on.
And to tie into the rivalry, and the history of the Celtics-Lakers rivalry, which I'm sure is going to be covered in this, a new sports documentary by HBO Max came out a few nights ago, Celtic City, and we were able to see the first episode. And knowing that you're a history teacher, how did you like the way that the documentary tied into the Celtics history and also the history of the United States? And do you think that the Boston Celtics had a general impact on the shifting culture in Boston?
Oh, absolutely. Man, I can't say enough about that. So we had the director, Lauren Stowell, and the showrunner, Gabe Honig, on the Celtics Hub podcast last week. And HBO had sent screeners over so I could watch a few episodes before, but I couldn't get it to work on my computer. I had to download an app, and my iOS wasn't up to date. So I never watched the screeners. So when on the podcast, they were saying, we didn't shy away from the history. We gave you things you've never seen before. I kind of figured, great, that's good. I believe you, but it can't be that tremendous. At the Garden, 2 people really punctuated, you have no idea, buckle up. Jeff Twist, who's the longtime PR guru for the Celtics. I said, hey, I'm really looking forward to this. And he said, you have no idea what we got out of Larry Bird, some of the stories that, you're going to hear. It's just tremendous. I was so thrilled to be a part of this. Sean Grandy, I mentioned it kind of in passing, and he hopped in the conversation. He was I can't believe how much they leaned into talking about civil rights right away, talking about American history right away. So to your question, sports are dumb, right? It doesn't matter. The ball went in, the ball didn't go in, we go home. But at the same time, it's increasingly the only thing in the culture that we can all agree on. That, you sit next to a Red Sox game and it doesn't matter who you voted for, you're rooting for the same team at that point, right? And it's also a reflection of what the society is all about. And so the stick to sports and it's apolitical is kind of a fairy tale. It is the intersection of culture and public life. I mean, it's the most visible thing we all do together. So of course, politics and history bleed in. The question of did the Celtics change Boston history? That's $1 million question. And as a history teacher, I ought to be equipped to answer that, but I guess I don't know. It depends on who you ask, right? I guess if you ask Bill Russell, he said, I didn't play for Boston, I played for the Celtics. So maybe he'd have a different opinion. And certainly he kept his distance from Boston for a long, long time. At the same time, what guys have meant to the community up to Jaylen Brown today, I mean, the way he's investing in Boston and like building roots here, I would be inclined to say yes. I don't know. It's a fabulous, beautiful question that like almost makes me emotional to think through. My bias is I know a lot of people who aren't particularly big sports fans. And so maybe their read on it would be different, that like, no, actually, I've been living in Boston for a while. It hasn't changed my life. But just some of the things that you can't tell the history of America without talking about race. You can't tell the history of Boston without talking about race. And you can't talk about the history of the Celtics without talking about race. And maybe you can't tell all of those in the reverse order. Maybe you can't tell the history of Boston without talking about the Celtics, and on and on. So, man, I was floored by that thing. I'm really, I shot a message over to Gabe Honig, the showrunner, after. I said, man, I'm floored. Congratulations. Like this is such a triumph. There's been so many Celtics documentaries and they've all been very good. I thought The Last Dance fizzled out, quite frankly. So where I was at in the first episode of The First Dance was not where I was at the end. So maybe Celtic City, they've got whatever it is, 8 more episodes. Maybe they can't keep this up, but they just went right for it. I thought it was tremendous. Yeah, I think I cried twice in the first like 10 minutes. I was just like so moved by what they built.
And knowing that you've seen a few more episodes, without giving us any spoilers, what is there anything else we should expect to see as the episode keeps up or the series moves forward?
Yeah, I know that there's some stuff that has never been told before. So there's like Robert Parrish chooses to not help Larry Bird when Larry Bird's in a fight. They're going to talk about that. I think Bill Russell's like longer relationship with the franchise and the team. They're going to talk about that. I think that it's not going to, once the 60s are over, they're just going to talk about basketball in the 70s and 80s. They're going to keep talking about the texture and not just the race relations, but the player relations and things like that. So yeah, the Larry Bird stuff is supposed to be incredible. They really leaned on Jackie McMullen to get him to kind of be that generous with his time. He's not someone who has been, super comfortable in front of the camera, and he doesn't love to hear himself talk the way other guys do. And it sounds like they got some like just tremendous Larry Bird stuff. And yeah, some good Joe Mazzulla stuff coming your way. So I didn't get to see the screeners. I've just talked to people who, have worked on the show, and everything that they've said, they get animated in a way that they're usually not so animated. So yeah, I'm excited. And for the record, I didn't like work on the program. I'm not carrying water. Right. I just am really moved by what they created.
I was very excited to watch the first episode, and like you said, there's been plenty of Celtics documentaries in the past, but this one, it seems like it's really taken a different approach into their perspective on the story and how the Celtics history has been built over time.
So, Seamus, did you want to ask another question?
Well, yeah, in terms of just if we're on the topic of the HBO Max documentary Celtic City, ultimately only the first episode has come out, and you kind of answered this question already with the last question that was asked. But in terms of the entire documentary that's going to come out, the docu-series, I should say, what are you most looking forward to within the entire documentary series that would really spike your attention when it comes to the Boston Celtics? Because like we've already mentioned in this program, there's been a lot of other Celtic documentaries and there's been a lot of other NBA documentaries. And obviously we don't know exactly what's going to come out, but in terms of one thing within Celtics history that you're most curious about seeing potentially come out in this documentary, or you never know, it could be in another documentary, what would that be for you?
One of the things that I'm really interested in seeing is, what they do. Like they got Jerry West before Jerry West died. They got Bill Walton before Bill Walton died. And it was explained to me that they had tough conversations about how to navigate that. I never met Bill Russell, and I only really talked to Tommy politely in the back halls. If he knew my name, it's not like we were chummy or anything like that. I never built, a real working relationship with him, but I'm so happy that they had archival footage and included them. I don't know. Tommy's probably like one of my more favorite Celtics people of all time. So to just like hear him again and see him again is really special. And again, that they have Bill Walton. Before Bill Walton went, he had his days, before he passed. And they said that they got him on good days. So they had, the lucid kind of cogent version of Bill Walton, which is special because I think Tommy and Bill and Bill Walton, they love basketball. They love basketball so much. And so far, again, the history teacher in me loves how it fits in the culture and all of that. But like the through line is you love basketball. And they got voices of people who Red too. He said something like, playing for the Celtics, that's the best job in the world, which probably it's not, right? But they believe that. And so I guess as much as I'm interested in like learning more about the history and dealing with uncomfortable truths and questions, one of the things that Lauren, the director, said was Bill Simmons would say like, hey, you have footage from the like 1984 round 2. Actually, there's footage from the other side of the court that'll play better. You should go get that. It seems like it was made by people who really love Celtics basketball, narrated and orated by people who really love Celtics basketball, put on for people who love Celtics basketball. So, my small answer is like, just give me more Tommy. My big answer is it's a love letter to Celtics basketball, and it's a really well written one.
And that kind of brings me to another kind of piggyback question off of that is you've worked with a lot of Celtics personalities over time, yourself personally, just being around the team and being around other media members. Who are some of your most favorite Celtic personalities out there, or really just media personalities that you've had the privilege to meet over time?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm really thankful for the friendships that I've built. Corrales dubbed us the Celtics Brat Pack last year, but like the younger or the non-national Celtics beat reporters, I consider those people like true friends. So I'm really, I guess that's like my pure answer. There are other people who, it's funny, like when the playoffs roll around, I find myself starstruck more about like the media people than some of the players, which suggests I'm in the right line of work. So it's been a real thrill. Like I got to talk to Mike Breen about his shoes the other day because I'm doing a story for Jordan. Or incidentally, Mark J. Spears is like the nicest dude in the world. So it is a real thrill. It's funny. As a person of a certain age, if you've been on Around the Horn, that's such a big deal to me. So like the first time I saw Frank Isola in person, I was like, oh my God, like I'm on an episode of Around the Horn. This is crazy. So I don't know. I will say, I think everyone who covers the Celtics is one of the thrills is that everyone's so damn smart. Like watching out of market games or like when March Madness is on or WNBA, you hear commentary that you're like, wow, I didn't see that. I didn't know that. Like I feel so privileged to work with such smart, ambitious, hardworking people, but everyone's also very nice. So I don't mean to single anyone out who is not nice. Chris Forsberg was always a nice guy. He's a bit older than I am. When I first started almost 10 years ago, I think 10 years ago at this point, he was always like nice enough to say hello. I mean, he wasn't Chris. He was still a blog boy at that point too, but he was always very inviting. And whenever I see him, we're not buddies in that, like I wouldn't hit him up to like go get a beer, but he's always very nice. I was teasing him about his mustache last time I saw him. So yeah, people always ask, how do you get into this business? It's you work harder than anyone else. These are, you can drag your favorite sports reporter, give them a hard time for their take, but these MFers, they work harder than anyone else. It's insane the amount of behind the scenes stuff it takes to put all this together. You guys have an insight to that. I don't know if you guys are doing this full time or part time, but it's hard. It's really hard work, emotionally, intellectually, in terms of the hours you give to it. And yeah, some of the people I get to work or meet are doing even more than that. So I don't know. That was everyone. I picked everyone to answer your question.
Yeah.
Well, that also gets me to another question of when did you know that you were going to fall into this line of business, the media business? When was that a revelation to you?
It's not. I'm a full-time high school teacher first, and I get to do this part-time. Uh, I I picked it up when I graduated from undergrad. I have an environmental policy degree, and I started writing for Brian Robb at Celtics Hub. Um, I loved the NBA. I don't know. I like being right about things. So like writing book reports on my favorite Celtics games or Celtics players just kind of worked. And I always kept up with it. I mean, I was lucky enough to have press access pretty early. I don't think I understood how cool it was, quite frankly. And then I lived in Australia for a little bit, and I kept up with it because it was just like a way to organize my thoughts around the NBA, to like write a blog post or something. And now that I get to do it part time, I'm like the luckiest man in America. I don't know. I love my teaching job. I take so much joy and pride in it, and I love covering the Celtics. I take just as much pride and joy. People always ask if what I'm going to choose, and right now I'm not going to choose either. I'm going to keep doing both. But it was not like there are some people. You talk to Drew Carter, Bobby Manning, Bobby Kravitsky, people who the Syracuse Mafia, they knew they were going to do this. They were always going to do this, and they did everything. They moved heaven and earth to do this. Like Noah Dalzell and I are always kind of amused because she also didn't start with this. She didn't know she was going to end up with this. So I don't know. For me, I guess an analytical person who loved basketball got lucky and shook the right hands and kept pursuing it. And then other people, they've been, pretending like they were on SportsCenter since they were 5 years old. So I don't have an answer to your question yet because I don't know if I'm going to do it forever and ever. But as long as I can, it's a great thrill.
Yeah, you named a lot of people who have inspired and influenced all three of us as we're young, aspiring to be within the media industry and to really follow within those types of footsteps. If there's any type of advice you would have to offer to people as they're building up their resume and trying to work their way into being able to enjoy the luxury and the opportunity to utilize press passes, what would that be?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I've been trying to iron it out into actionable advice. Um, the first is work harder than anyone else. I do this part time, and I write between 30 and 50 articles a month, on top of podcasting, on top of like keeping a pulse on social. It's just really hard work, not just to get your voice out there and muscle out everyone else who wants the spotlight, but to hone your craft. If you subscribe to the 10,000 hours thing, you got to get to 10,000 hours. So it's whether it's podcasting, if it's posting on social, if it's making memes, if it's writing, there's a lot of people who want to do that too. And you got to work hard to continue to get better, to catch people's eye and also get better at it. Another thing I guess I would say in terms of advice is figure out why you want to do it and then do that. So like I was explaining to I don't know Azad's last name. Azad, who writes for Celtics blog, he's visiting from France. And I was saying like, oh, by the way, like I really love the spectacle of live television. It's just like it's so fun that it's an event. And then we walked past Grimace, the McDonald's mascot in the back halls, and I made him take a picture. And I was like, that's it. Like, I just love being there. And so for me, I know that about myself. So I chase stories. Like I'm doing the story with Jordan Brand. I think the culture around basketball is a lot of fun. Or like Kristaps Porzingis' cars. Like that was a great story that I got to write. I know that I'm not breaking down trap coverages in the third quarter. Like that's just not what's going to excite me. And so I'm not going to chase it. Whereas Jack Simone, for example, I've talked to him about, he's posting more and more on video and like why he likes that and why he's doing that versus. So another piece of advice I would say is like really figure out what about Celtics basketball or the NBA or sports you love and try to do that because that's the stuff that is going to be most sustainable for you as a person. And then just I guess the other piece of advice I would say is like just try like everything all at once. If what's the kid who they just signed? If Miles Norris is doing a card event at the South Shore Mall, go get in line and ask if you can ask questions. They might say no. You get told no or you get no answer way more often than you get told yes in this industry. I have done some like really exciting stories with Jaylen Brown. That started because I went on the Juice website and I filled out a contact us form. That was how I got to know those guys. So yeah, what I tell young reporters is like work harder than everyone else, try to get paid for it, and say yes to everything. Because lots of people want to do this. Fewer people want to do the work or know how to do the work. And then I like, man, I feel like I feel like the luckiest person in America. Like good old fashioned luck helps too. And so just always putting yourself in position to be lucky helps. That's why you go to the Miles Norris card show at the South Shore Mall. That's why you keep posting, because you might get lucky. Someone might see it or someone might like it or whatnot. So I don't know. Always keep trying, keep your head up. You got what you guys have here, what you've built deserves that recognition too. So also give yourselves your flowers as often as you can, because for a long time, no one else is gonna.
That's what we say on the program. It's our flowers. We
Really?
got Justin's flowers. We have CTW flowers as well. So
We even have
it's us. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you.
I can't have flowers in the house. My aforementioned cats eat the flowers.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to keep the right flowers, and got to keep them elevated. But they're good climbers. That's the tricky part. But ultimately, yes. Thank you for saying that though, because I think you're completely on point when it comes to really doing the work and getting everything, all of the photos, all of the videos, all the writing you can get out. Any media member out there, it's really about volume. Sometimes you're going to have a lot of projects that you probably know about where they just don't quite hit. But then every now and then amongst the line, you're going to have something that just absolutely pops off. And that one thing out of the incredible line of things, you might have 20 pieces of content out there, but that one piece of content might actually get it going. And usually those one pieces of content, whether it's an article, whether it's a video, whether it's whatever it is out there in terms of content, it can be something that you work on and think, oh, well, this isn't going to hit as much as this thing. You might work on something extremely hard over here and then might put a little effort into this little project over here, but that little project might actually end up turning out to be the big thing that ends up gets you going a little bit. And it doesn't have to be obviously career altering, but just something that pops off, gets something out there that people actually see from yourself and what the work is. But yeah, that isn't that I would say that is definitely some great advice to throw out to everybody out there, because the media industry, it's unforgiving. I mean, really, it is an everyday thing. And once you don't do it for, say, a week, I mean, the world moves on for that whole week. I mean, you look at the span of the Celtics games in general. I mean, we do post game every single game, but if there's a post game that's missed, it's ultimately, oh, well, you missed the 76ers game. Well, if you do it a week later, or I'm not saying we're doing post game a week later, but if you ultimately try to talk about that game a week later, it's like it's already moved on. And that's where it can kind of become an unforgiving world too, if it just keeps moving on. The stories keep building. And I like what you said too about just capturing the stories, because there are so many little stories and big stories too within the game of basketball and the game of sports, and it's entirely and really just life. Everything could be its own little story. You think about just the journey of a paper cup on the street, that could ultimately be a huge factor in somebody's journey along the way, where they got this paper cup and then it kind of just falls on the ground and just wisps away in time. But yeah, I would say that's definitely some good advice, and definitely an answer that it's kind of appreciated, I would say, by other media members as well. I think that was some great stuff there. But David and Franco, you can piggyback off that if you'd like.
We got two more questions for you here. First one, sticking with media, we often hear athletes talk about their, we'll say welcome to the NBA moment. Do you have a welcome to the league moment as a journalist when you first started?
Well, that's a fun question. I don't know. I was so the whole I've spent so many years trying to suggest to people that like let Jason and Jalen be. I don't know how old you guys are, but the psychologists and the neurologists say you go through a second puberty in your 20s. You get smarter, you get better at whatever it is you're doing. You're 26, 27, 28. Like that's why you hit your prime in the NBA. A lot of people professionally step into them themselves too. And so I was fortunate enough to be doing this when I was 22, 23. I don't think I even knew what I was doing or like what I had. I do remember they used to practice in Waltham. And so we were at the Waltham BSSC. And it was the first time I went to practice, and Jeff Green and Gerald Wallace were just having a 3-point contest. And I was like, wow, like they're so big, like they're so big, and like there they are. And I can remember feeling really wowed there. Welcome to the league moment. Well, I'll tell a story. I got in trouble a little bit, but it comes back to the advice. So Brad Stevens, took he was working as like a finance advisor or consultant or something out of college, and he quit so he could volunteer at not Baylor. Why am I having a brain fart? Butler. Thank you. Jeez Louise. And I read online that he was prepared to take a job at Applebee's to pay for his volunteer job at Butler, but they hired him because they liked his moxie. And so that's, he took a bet on himself. And lots of people who work in the media, they don't like to talk about it, but they bartend, they turn tables, they Uber, they do what they need to do because it's never a good paying job, but it's especially not a good paying job when you're starting out. So anyways, Brad got named to the coach the All-Star team. And I asked the first question. I was like 23 or 24. I said, Brad, what do you say to a kid who's about to take a job at Applebee's to chase a dream? And he gave some answer. And then he goes, by the way, I never worked at Applebee's. And then I got talked to by like literally everyone on the Celtics PR team after that. I have since said something to Brad, and he goes, I am so sure I don't remember that. So I said, great, well, let's never talk about it again. So that was a bad welcome to the league moment where I just like really got over my skis, and I didn't even like think to ask if that was an okay question to ask, which water under the bridge for me and Brad there. But it was good advice. Chase your dream. Go work at Applebee's if you need to. Just don't talk about it, I guess. I don't know is the takeaway.
So what you're saying is you have to be accurate within the media room. Completely accurate.
I'm sure I got that fact on Wikipedia. So yeah, I was being a dumbass. Well, yeah, Joe will not let you. Joe is like a really nice man privately, but he doesn't let you get it wrong at the podium. That's for damn sure.
I'd be terrified asking him a question and just seeing him across the podium. I know he has that dead eye lock on you when you're asking the question, so he's focused on exactly what you're saying and why you're saying it and how you're saying it all at the same time.
Well, I feel bad for him. You see him, he does, if you're on YouTube, he like squints a lot. The lights are insanely bright. Like not proverbially or metaphorically, like really and truly, he can't see us, I don't think. So that sourpuss look that he has, I think actually has to do with the lighting in the room, among other things. But yeah, I think there are just some reporters he knows he can, like if there's like an international reporter or sometimes have like the Sports Illustrated for Kids reporter, he gives a good answer. He doesn't even try to like be cantankerous or whatever. I think with other reporters, he's it's either playful or he just doesn't care. I'm not sure. But then privately, he's a really nice person. I don't know him super well, but I've had great time talking to him off camera. On camera, it's a little different. But same with the players. It's all for TV.
Now that raises another question inside of me where I wonder, from your perspective, who is the toughest interview that you've had as a beat writer, a beat reporter? Because we see all these different guys at the podium. Sometimes they're a little bit more generous with what they're giving out, and sometimes they're very locked away. But in terms of all the players or coaches or executives out there who have been locked away, who's been the toughest interview where you look at that person and go, man, they're just not giving us anything right now, or rather, they don't even want to be here? I guess that could be two different things, but
I mean, I think both Jason and Jalen. Jalen's fun to talk to, and funny and interesting. That his podium personality is like really tight and polished. Actually, like yesterday or Sunday, I asked him a question about leadership, and he like completely did not answer it. I was kind of bummed because I thought it was a good question, but I think they kind of need that. They, especially last year, they just needed to get through the media session to like not even really, because I don't think we have like. There's a funny moment in that Netflix documentary where they go, "Oh, the big bad Boston media," and Jason talks about like, "I got to talk to the media every game," and they use like a picture of me and B-roll, and I just look tired because I've been teaching all day. But like, so it's a little overblown, but I do think Jason, Joe, and Jalen in particular don't really give answers because they don't want us to like have a say in like what their beliefs about themselves looks like. So Jason, I've gotten complimented from other reporters for making Jason laugh. He is so notoriously buttoned up and boring. And yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Jason's pretty buttoned up and boring. I think he's just like a really shy guy who also was destined to be a superstar. So he's been doing this and preparing for this his whole life. But then other guys, like, they probably could get better at it. Luke is not very good on the podium. Derek, I asked Derek a question the other day, and his like brain short circuited. He gave like such a bad answer. And I bet if they were here, they'd be like, "Yeah, it's a really hard part of my job. Like, it's so unnatural." I mean, Joe, you figure he speaks 10 minutes after the game. There are times I play in like a Volo men's basketball league. I need hours to calm down emotionally after like my Tuesday night pickup game. So it's kind of ridiculous that we ask them to do this in the first place. I'm happy they do. It's like a big part of my job, and I need them to do that. But the whole thing can be quite insightful. I think I've asked questions that have been really yielded really interesting, wonderful answers, and then most of the time it's silly garbage. I don't know.
Has there been a person within the organization that you feel every time you ask a question or go to for content specifically that they're actually going to give you a good story every single time?
Not a story, but it's funny. Peyton, I think Peyton, like, it doesn't even like if you ask a question and he doesn't agree, he'll be like, "No, that's not true. Here's something else." And in January, we were at an event and I asked him, I was like, "By the way, like, is there like a type of question you think we should be asking? Like, I'm just curious." He like thought about it. And I'm like, I don't know, like 7 years older than Peyton. He goes, "No, I think you're pretty good at your job." It's like, weird, thanks. So Peyton's really honest. Drew is hilariously honest. Drew's just like kind of deadpan, but Drew's really honest. But you see it on television. I mean, I guess you guys could probably answer that question too. I mean, you're getting an unfettered, version of that if you watch the stream or watch it live. You can tell when someone is lying to you or telling the truth. You're not missing anything really.
You can kind of see that this team has really been carrying themselves with a new level of confidence, and it's apparent during press conferences. But how confident do you feel in this team to wrap things up, to go back to back? And if there is a threat to the Boston Celtics, who is it? Either within the East or within the NBA?
It's the injury bug. It's the Celtics title to lose. I don't see a world where the Knicks or the Bucks can play defense well enough. Cleveland, like, I don't know. DeAndre Hunter does look pretty good, so maybe there's something there. But I would certainly take the Celtics over Cleveland, just in terms of like depth and talent and also poise. Out west, like everything's an incomplete project. You're too young to do it until you're not. So maybe Oklahoma City, similar to the Celtics last year, they just like cruise to the finals and they are ready for the moment. But yeah, what Oklahoma City and Cleveland are doing is like really remarkable. I don't want to be flip about that, but I think they probably have. I think Cleveland has too many holes. I think Oklahoma City, if they meet the moment and they're not too young, just like their defense is so silly good. But that's a lot of pressure on however young Chet Holmgren is and J-Dub are. I mean, like I just said, the history of the NBA is not 22-year-olds and 19-year-olds teaming up to win titles. It's guys in their late 20s and their 30s because they have just like a certain handle on things. So yeah, I'm pretty confident the Celtics are going to the finals and probably going to win that thing if they stay healthy. But I don't know. I mean, look what just happened to the Mavs. No one could have predicted anything.
Right.
Predicting anything in the NBA is a fool's errand, even if you get paid to do it. So, my answer is the injury bug is the biggest hurdle for the Celtics here.
Those three quarters with Kyrie and Anthony Davis, magical time for Mavs fans. I will say
Yeah.
the 3 quarters that those two
Brutal.
guys got to play together. Very tragic story for the Dallas Mavericks, but the Boston Celtics for the rest of the season. I kind of agree with what you said earlier about this next stretch being a little boring for the playoffs, just a little boring because right now the thing that I want to see out of the Boston Celtics going into the playoffs is them playing well and having their entire health. I mean, kind of iterated it earlier, but right now it just feels like I don't want to say the team is vulnerable to going into the state in which we saw in December and January, where they were nearly a 500 basketball team. I don't expect that out of the team again, but at the same time, I do look at some of the motivation behind this ball club and go, what are they exactly playing for the next 2 months? I mean, they're playing for the number 2 seed at the end of the day, but outside of that, it's just about maintaining the 2 seed in health, and you're not really gunning for anything else. But in terms of that aspect of the Boston Celtics, do you see the inconsistencies within the team at certain points? Because we did just come off a stretch in which we won 11 out of 14 games, and everything was going right there for a second, right before All-Star break and then after All-Star break. But we have seen some of the inconsistencies this season from the team. Now, do you chalk that up to more of the motivational factor that I just mentioned, where the team, do you think about all the other moments of hype they come into last season as a completely new squad? They're hungry for a championship. You know, they feel snubbed in a couple of ways last All-Star break, and then they go into the playoffs and dominate. They go win the championship, and then there's the Olympics, there's the offseason, there's the coming back and the going into the back-to-back season. But then that motivational factor kind of tapers off there, and we saw the Celtics go back and forth in December and January. Do you chalk it up more to that, or do you see there are some inconsistencies within this team that could eventually bite them a little bit later that you're worried about?
I think old habits die hard. I think still Jason and Jalen are a little ISO heavy. You know, they're sometimes a little absent-minded on defense. The kind of criticisms that we levied for the team 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, just because they're a year older and they have a new trophy in their hardware case or whatever, it doesn't mean that those habits are gone. So, yeah, those are definitely there. But again, like, I don't know. I'm watching a lot of Nimi Keita this season. Like, I don't think I know yet. The way, look, winning is great because of your legacy and your contract or whatever. I think it was like the most fun thing that ever happened for these people. Maybe, yes, they're not that focused on like a Wednesday night against the Detroit Pistons in February, but like, you have to believe they want to do it again because it's just like the greatest feeling in the world. So anything can happen. They get unlucky. Team could get red hot. 7 games isn't that long, but the idea that they're going to lose 4 out of 7 to any of these teams in the East seems supremely unlikely. Even if, you know, they default to old ways, even if they're down a guy, I don't see it happening. Credit to Brad Stevens. I mean, what they built, I don't know if it's financially sustainable, but for at least one more season, no one else has what they've got going on.
So you're forecasting a back-to-back championship. We'll take it as that. We'll take it
Yeah,
as that. Maybe.
Quite
Maybe.
frankly, yeah. I mean, I have a problem where I'm supposed to be at a wedding in Alaska on Friday the 20th, and Game 6 is presumably in Boston and on the 19th. So I'm not really sure how that plays out. So I do think they're going to win a title. I privately hope it's no contest because I would like to go to this wedding in Alaska.
Let's just make it clear to the viewers here. Basketball and weddings just don't mix. Ask the ladies out there. They don't like it. Basketball and weddings.
Yeah, can people stop
They don't
having
mix.
bachelor parties in May? I'd like to go to my job. I don't know. Anyways, that's a very privileged
Like hot
problem.
take, NBA Finals needs to happen in February when everybody's sitting inside in the dark and not in the spring and in the summer when it's light out at 9 o'clock and the game's still going on. That's a bit of a problem with the playoffs, I will say, just a little bit.
I don't mind.
Just a
I don't
little
mind
bit.
that take.
Alrighty, that is actually going to bring us to time here. Cam, thank you for everything that you told us today. We appreciate your time. You gave us a lot of interesting information, a lot of fun behind the scenes scoop. So we greatly appreciate all your time here, and we hope we can get you on another episode at some point soon. This was a very fun conversation. Once again, that's going to do it for us here at Celtics Talk Weekly. I'm the host, David. We got my co-host Seamus and Franco below me. We'll be back tomorrow night with more content with the post-game show for the game up against the Trailblazers. But we love doing these specials every week, and we hope we can keep doing them every week and get you guys some awesome guests on here like Cam himself. So that's going to do it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time. Thank you.